Welcome back. This is lesson 7.4, Readers, Audiences and Fans. In this lesson, I'll discuss the audience for superheroes. By the end of this lesson, you should have a good understanding of the composition of the audience and the way audiences engage with superheroes. Readers and the rest. The French scholar Jean-Paul Gabelet reminds us that there are different levels of engagement with comics. Comic book readers may be fans and collectors, but not all readers engage in this level of activity. Likewise, most fans may be collectors, but not all collectors are necessarily fans. And not all fans engage in the same type and array of activities, such as publishing fanzines and attending conferences. These distinctions can be extended to the sort of folks who watch superhero television shows and superhero movies. Key point 1. The audience for superhero entertainments are diverse. This diversity is in levels of engagement and in forms of media consumed. Fans. The concepts of fans as somewhat obsessive individuals constituting some sort of fandom around comic books or, say, Star Trek has enjoyed popular circulation for almost 30 years. Henry Jenkins points to William Shatner's mocking of Star Trek fans in an appearance on Saturday Night Live in December 1986 as a key reference in this popular conception. Look it up, you can probably find it online somewhere. It is easy to view fans as geeks and nerds and the dupes of corporate capitalism, mindlessly consuming any old schlock served up for their diversion. Jenkins argues against such a view of fans and provides a wealth of evidence about fan creativity and the way in which their desire to create has run up against the property rights claimed by the producers of media franchises like Star Trek and Star Wars. For instance, Lucasfilms, over the years, has been extremely protective of its Star Wars characters. In 1981, Maureen Garrett of the official fan club sternly warned fans about using the characters in ways that Lucasfilms objected to. And of course, comic books have come in for some of the same negative attention in shows like The Big Bang Theory, where the scientists are obsessive comic boy superhero fan geeks, although this is done in a somewhat more loving manner. How do we distinguish between fans from collectors or those who simply read comic books? Key point 2. Fans tend to distinguish themselves from other readers of comic books by the type and level of their engagement. Before the advent of the web, one key fan activity was writing letters to the editor, or perhaps sometimes they're called letters of comment. One aim of many fans was to break into the industry. One of the most regular and articulate letter writers, Irene Vartanoff, recalled that my generation of comic book fans had no comic book stores to go to, so we met each other through letters columns, fanzines, and conventions, which started quite small and thus were great breeding grounds for friendships. My first convention was in 1966, and I made lifelong friendships there. I also corresponded regularly with lots of comic fans, mostly male, of course. Many of my comic friends were determined to break into the business, and they lived in the New York metro area. We kept in touch with each other and invited others into our circle. And we made connections with editors, whom we besieged with story ideas and samples while we were still in college. And indeed, many of the letter writers in the 1960s ended up working in comics, but many did not. One of the things about letters pages was that editors selected the letters, so to have a letter published was a badge of honor for fans. With the advent of the web and discussion boards on comics, the flow of information amongst fans is much more widespread and perhaps undermines some of the connections fans felt to particular comics and to each other. In any case, DC recently brought back letters pages after having abandoned them for almost 10 years. Audiences. The advent of the web saw an explosion in audience interaction with comics and television series. For instance, look at the number of fan websites about Superman. Do a search, you'll find lots. There are numerous fan websites about superhero television series. Some of these websites have extended engagements with the series. One form of fan engagement is fan fiction. For instance, fans have produced thousands of stories around the TV series Lois and Clark and Smallville. Even though Lois and Clark concluded in 1998, fans were still adding stories to the fanfic websites in 2015. The level of engagement of many fans transgresses media forms. In the 1960s, several letters to Superman comic books made comparison between the Superman TV show and the comic books. The audience for comic book superheroes is part of the audience for superhero films. Superhero films and audiences. Sometimes during this course I have spoken of audiences and at other times of an audience. I make this distinction for a number of reasons, but superhero films are a good way to explain this. The audience for a superhero film is made up of many layers, so when I say audiences, I mean part of the larger group of people who go to see, say, a superhero film. To get people to pay money to see these films, the producers need to motivate them to attend. The film must appeal to them in some fashion. So think of it this way. In making a superhero film, who does it need to appeal to in order to be successful at the box office? Comic book fans? Former comic book fans? Parents of children who are comic book fans? Parents who were comic book fans who want to share it with their children? And so on. You could replace fans with readers in the above list of people who a film needs to appeal to, and you would get different audiences. One particular audience is key to superhero films, the Comic-Con crowd. Comic-Con in San Diego is part fan convention and part industry public relations. The buzz created around a film at Comic-Con can help drive that film to a big opening weekend box office, which is often a key to a film's success. Key point 3. Fans are an important audience for superhero films because they are not just potential purchasers of a ticket, but also creators of anticipation around the release of films, which drives ticket sales in the broader potential audience. This lesson has 3 key points. Go back over your notes in the video of the lesson to make sure you have noted these points. Next up, Module 8, Satire.